Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at the full moon in the sign of Taurus, which is coming through tomorrow in a conjunction with Uranus. We will unpack that. I've got 5 themes to watch for. So we're going to try to prepare you for that full moon today. And then tomorrow we're going to be looking at the sun opposite Uranus, which follows right on the heels of the full moon over the weekend. That is our agenda for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. We're seeing if we can get to 80,000 subscribers on this channel by the spring equinox. So it really helps when you subscribe. It's free to do so. Helps us grow our community and our business. We really appreciate it. You can find transcripts of any of my daily talks on the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. I am going to take you over to the website right now and promote a couple of things. One, our first year course, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, begins this Saturday. It's our first year course in Hellenistic astrology. It is not too late to register, but you want to do so quickly because you only have literally a couple of days left. And when you go to the courses page, click on first year course, scroll down, you can learn more about the program and everything that includes. There's also an informational video about the program tagged on at the end of today's content. If you want to learn more about it, you could stick around and listen to that as well. Be sure to check out the need-based tuition option. If you want to take the class, but you're on a fixed or limited income and you need a little help to make it happen, we're very glad to make sure that our classes are accessible for people of different backgrounds. So on that note, next thing to promote are our live talks coming up on November 21st next week. I'm giving a talk on Pluto's entrance into Aquarius called Pluto in Aquarius, AI, Aliens, and New World Orders. That should be a fun talk and a way of prepping ourselves for Pluto's now very long stay that is coming in the sign of Aquarius. No more retrogrades back into Capricorn. If you can't make that live when you register, you'll also receive the recording link later. Also, a couple of other things. Go into the Book of Reading tab, click on Need-Based Astrology Readings. Our Need-Based Astrology service is finally available. So we have different tiers, different staff members, and alumni from our programs at different tiers of different payment tiers that we can offer to make sure that people are also not priced out of reading. So this is something we're really glad to offer and something that you helped us build over the past couple of years through the success of our Kickstarter campaign. Really can't thank you enough for that. And on that note, don't forget that on Monday of next week, on the 18th of November, through the rest of the year, we will be fundraising to support this channel going into the year ahead. So we do an annual Kickstarter campaign. I think this will be our 11th annual Kickstarter campaign. And we will have, we'll be trying to rally the support of our subscribers on the channel to support Nightlight and the channel. And we'll have tons of different rewards and sales on all of our stuff that comes with that donation through Kickstarter. So more on that on Monday. All right, on that note, let us shift now to looking at this full moon. All right, here we go. So we have the new moon in the sign of Taurus. You can see it right here. This is happening Friday evening, November 15th. As I'm recording this today, as you're listening to this, I should say, it is November 14th. That is Thursday. So this is coming through tomorrow. We are now preparing ourselves for this transit. A powerful full moon. Obviously, we have a Uranian signature at the time of a full moon, which makes it incredibly powerful. Full moons are on their own very powerful. This is an exalted full moon in the sign of Taurus. There's some auspicious things about an exalted full moon that I'll talk about in a little bit. But it's made extra interesting by the fact that this exalted full moon will conjoin Uranus at the time that it is full. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm going to give you 5 things to watch for. I want to mention to you that tomorrow we're going to be looking at the subsequent transit of the sun opposite. So you can see this is just about a degree off from the full moon, which means that the sun will be moving through the opposition to Uranus right after the full moon. So if we fast forward this by one day, you'll notice that on Saturday, November 16th, the sun will then oppose Uranus. We are going to visit the significations of that transit, which have a lot in common, of course, with the full moon conjoined Uranus, but there are some interesting distinctions and differences. We'll look at those tomorrow so that you have some sense of what both transits may be indicating over the weekend, especially. So that is the timeline that we're working with right now. Now, on that note, I want to present you with 5 things to watch for. So these are 5 full moon themes that you can watch for, and they're in no particular order. Remember that sometimes these themes are present in people around you or the environment, or they might be present very personally or within a relationship or at your job. look at that whole sign house of Taurus in your birth chart to get some clues about where you may notice or experience this transit most vividly. That's always a good starting point. And then note that one of these themes, or maybe a few of them, may stand out more than others. And also, no list is exhaustive. So you can also work with these themes and keep your eyes open, and you may notice themes that are a little bit different than our list here today, but at least we're hopefully pointing you in the right direction to be able to identify, reflect upon, and sort of consciously work alongside of the archetypal field of the full moon as it is coming through. I mean, that's always the goal. So, let's start off with the idea of Venusian earthy breakthroughs. So Uranus is a planet associated with a breakthrough. What is a breakthrough? I mean, we say that word a lot, we use that phrase breakthrough or whatever, but what does it mean? And I think one of the ways that we can think about it is that sometimes we have been actively working at something. I think, for example, of when I am in the process of like learning something new on the guitar, and it's feeling clunky, and I'm sort of getting it, but it doesn't feel easy. Nothing's coming easy. And then all of a sudden there will come a point when I'm playing maybe an exercise that I'm learning or something like that. And all of a sudden I'll just feel very comfortable. And all of a sudden I feel very familiar with the exercise, and I can just start moving around very freely. That would be a very small version of a breakthrough. Something was difficult, something was limiting, something was constrained, something wasn't coming easy. There wasn't a feeling of surging momentum, and all of a sudden, boom, there is. And now things are easier, things are opening, things are moving. That can be a subtle thing to detect if you're not paying attention, if you're not in the practice of being reflective and just stopping sometimes and saying, like, how am I feeling? What's going on? Where do things feel stuck? And if you don't do that, it's hard to see all of a sudden that something is moving. You might literally just be caught up in a mood that feels good, and you may not even realize that this feeling is good because things are flowing where they were stuck, So it takes a little bit of work to reflect upon and notice where those breakthroughs are coming. And then we're talking about breakthroughs of pent up or stuck energy, or maybe a breakthrough where something has been stuck or rigid or held back. And in particular, with the sign of Taurus, this is Venus's home sign. This is the moon's exaltation, and this is a solid earth sign. And so we are talking about a sign that likes stability, that likes peace and ease and pleasure and sensuality and comfort, that likes a combination of sturdiness and reliability as well as enjoyment. So when it comes to a full moon in the sign of Taurus with Uranus, we're talking about things that can suddenly create a breakthrough when it comes to feeling happy, feeling stable, feeling peaceful and easy, feeling secure, as well as enjoying ourselves or our life experience. Breakthroughs in this respect suddenly make us feel like life is somehow easier, simpler, more stable, more enjoyable, more comfortable. On the other hand, this is a planet that in some ways is an awkward match for the sign of Taurus, because it is a planet that is not so stable. It's eccentric, it's erratic, it's sudden, it's disruptive. It has a little bit of chaos magic. That's Uranus. So on the other hand, you could also see something like a destabilization of things that we have thought to be peaceful, stable, easy, pleasurable. The same old thing will not be pleasurable. The same old thing will not make us feel easy or stable, because the revolution or the breakthrough is trying to push us into new spaces. And we can't just do the same old things. We can't stay comfortable in the same old places. And yet there may be a promise in the transit of some new version of peaceful or stable or easy or enjoyable or sensual that is presenting itself. For example, when a couple goes through a period of time where they reinvent themselves in terms of their intimacy, their love life, the way in which they spend time together or connect romantically. Those are very common for Uranus-Venus transits. And I'll never forget feeling like when Uranus was hitting my own Venus a couple of years ago, like, oh my God, I feel like I'm dating my wife again after being in like a foxhole with her in early parenting years. And all of a sudden our kids were a lot more independent. We were like, oh, we feel like we have our lives back. And it kind of felt like we were back to who we were before we had kids, or it felt like we were, just having a lot more fun again, as opposed to just being so overwhelmed by parenting. That's very common, though, in general for a combination like this, moon exalted in Taurus, Uranus and Taurus, where if you have felt stuck in a pattern or a routine that's maybe safe and stable, but it's maybe it's not so enjoyable, or it's like it's enjoyable, but could things get even better? This is a transit that can disturb or disrupt the peace, but maybe doing so in order to push us in the direction of more creative fulfillment, or more sensual enjoyment, or more options for how we connect and feel happy. So watch for Venusian earthy breakthroughs. Another thing that I would say about the earthiness of this is that so much of this sign is sensual and like seeking stability and security. And so the breakthrough that comes with a transit like this may have something to do with how we end up feeling stable, how we define or create a feeling of security or stability. This is not a security or stability born of fear or born of protection from threats, like a little bit more like Scorpio, which is very good at that, a sign that's very good at that. But this is more about, how do I create a form of stability and security that makes my life feel rhythmic, easy, enjoyable, somewhat predictable, but not devoid of like pleasure, So if they think about the revolution around these kinds of themes, the potential for breakthroughs relative to these themes. All right. Number 2 would be redefining normal, stable, peaceful. Now, this is, I was just alluding to this, but the other thing that can happen here is that we may go through a period of time where what we have thought to be normal, stable, peaceful, we recognize is now chaotic, disruptive, and stressful. I know that sounds weird, but there are periods of time in our life where the norm, the routine, the pattern, the thing we do to create some feeling of rhythm and ease and peace and stability eventually becomes a source of stress. That's because we're evolving and adapting and changing all of the time. I think it's the same thing, like, when I was in the Bhakti yoga community, my spiritual teacher, who is like my initiating guru, he would say, it's like you're trying to get comfortable in a car ride, and you'll hit like, okay, it's too cool. No, someone's too hot. Roll down the window, roll it up. I don't like the air on my face. I don't like the music. She's poking me. It's like all this. Then you can't ever. It doesn't ever. And then you might hit a period where it's like, oh wow, we've figured it out. We've got the perfect equation. Everyone is comfortable. Everyone's needs are being addressed. But then what happens? Things keep changing, and there will need to be constant modifications and adjustments and adaptations. And pretty soon you're going to have to find a new version of how to, how to create that peace in the whole car for everybody in the car on the road trip. So redefining normal, stable, and peaceful is an adaptive process that we have to constantly be working with. It's something that I've learned a ton about as I've gotten, as just my personal hobby of getting into bodybuilding and working with coaches whose primary approach to bodybuilding is coupled with a lot of care and attention to nutrition, sleep, etc. Like when you eat, what you do around you, how you eat. These things are constantly being slightly modified or adjusted because every day is different. And although you try to create as much of a rhythm as you can, because every day is different and because the body is adaptive and changeable, you can't have too rigid of a plan when you are maintaining your physique or building your physique, or maintaining your health and your well-being. Your hydration, your sleep, all of these things are like constant little fluctuations that you have to pay attention to. And one of the things I love about this is that for me, this has been, I've had a long history of being very intellectual, and spiritual and meditative and reflective and to read a lot and stuff like this. This has forced me to be very attentive and mindful and present with respect to the modulations and fluctuations of my physical being. That's been so new for me over the past couple of years. I've shared this with you guys many times on the channel, but this is very Taurian. Not surprisingly, I'm a Taurus rising who's had Uranus going through my first house throughout this entire process. So how do we constantly modulate and adapt ourselves as physical beings, sensual beings in sensual, physical, ecological systems of other human beings around us so that we're constantly redefining and refinding flow? You know, that's a full moon Uranus kind of dynamic. Now, another thing that comes up with Mercury, with the full moon in Taurus and a conjunction with Uranus is an emphasis on the desire body. See, one of the things that's really important is not just that we have routine and security, but that we have pleasure and enjoyment along with a feeling of rhythm and security. Rhythm and security alone is not enough. It's like there's that scene in Dead Poets Society that I always remember. This was one of my favorite movies growing up. I'm sure a lot of you probably love the movie as well. And he says, doctors, bankers, lawyers, welders, these are necessary professions and they're what we do to sustain life. But what do we live for? And he says poetry, meaning, love, romance, beauty. This is Venus, and isn't it tempting to put the cart before the horse and say, oh yeah, well, it's only once things are secure that I enjoy. It's only once things are all squared away and under control that I let myself relax and enjoy. So many people I've talked to over the years that think to themselves, until my life looks like this or gets into this place or that place, only then can I really relax and enjoy. Because it's considered, the enjoyment or the pleasure of life is considered to be indulgent compared to a more basic or primary level of security. Maybe think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or was that Maslow? I think it was the hierarchy of needs thing. You know what I'm talking about? And it's like, yeah, individuation, spiritual reflection, those are privileges that come up on the pyramid after your basic needs are met. So there's a way in which Taurus sort of acknowledges that. But I think Taurus, of all the signs, is a sign that dares to say that it might actually be the opposite. Unless your life has art, music, pleasure, relationships, beauty, love, connection, unless your life is connected to something aesthetically pleasing, you actually, no amount of security, stability, rhythm, money in your bank account will actually make you feel or will kind of create a feeling of well-being. So Venus dares us, especially with Uranus in a full moon, Uranian Venusian kind of way here with this full moon. It kind of dares us to say, my pleasure is important. My desires, the sensual dimension of life is equally important, maybe not more or less, but equally important to the basic concern with security and stability. This is one of the things that makes Taurus such a lovely sign, is that it offers both, and it suggests that both they're like cooperative principles. So anyway, think about the desire body and how can I respect and give more attention to what brings happiness and pleasure. Number 4 would be dramatic or unexpected changes in the environment. Look, the moon is the ruler of the realm of fortune, which broadly means that the moon just represents the constant forming and transforming of circumstances that are being that are unfolding according to fate and the laws of karma and so forth. The laws of karma meaning nothing more than the mysterious laws and interactions of cause and effect that move in chains and sequences of actions and reactions. There is a way in which when we run into that circumstantial world, it's like, it has less, there's less control that we have over that realm. It's like who you run into at the grocery store feels out of your control. And we go, oh, it was fate that I saw that person there. What happens as your day unfolds and you're moving through it with your own desires, plans, and choices, but what happens around you that you have to interact with and that will alter the course, that's fortune. So Uranus and the moon at the full moon is a major turning point in the realm of fortune, unexpected, dramatic, and maybe destabilizing, maybe something that disturbs or disrupts the peace. Especially on Algol, this fixed star that the 25th degree of Taurus is configured to very closely. That star can be very disruptive in kind of creative, but kind of chaotic in the way that it expresses itself. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some very dramatic or unexpected changes in that sort of the karmic environment around us. Just kind of a broad signification of a full moon like this one. And then 5, possession and exorcism. I mean these figuratively, of course, but one of the things that happens with respect to with the sign of Taurus is that Taurus has a pretty deep connection to what we desire, what we want, and what we possess. What we possess that gives us a sense of security. I possess money. I possess wealth. I possess a desirable, career or body or, whatever it is that we try to possess, because we believe that being in possession of something, whether it's really abstract or really physical or whatever, will grant us power, peace, security, desirability, like, being a desirable person or being attractive or whatever. Well, one of the things that happens with the sort of dark side of the bull is the Minotaur, and that which we possess that we become possessed by. If you think that money will grant you happiness, success, and security, and you go down that path too far, you'll become possessed by money, and that's greed or materialism or vanity or whatever other things we can become possessed by. If you think that, the pleasure of alcohol or food or sex or whatever is what grants you ultimately a feeling of well-being, safety, security in the world, and we constantly reach for those kinds of indulgences, but then we sort of, the impulse overtakes us, we become possessed. And then there's this need to exorcise from ourselves that which we have become possessed by, the Minotaur. I have to exorcise, myself of food addiction or of, I think there's a lot of people who struggle with things like pornography addiction. And I'm not saying what's right or wrong. It's just things like that, where the pleasure body and what we have sought to create happiness and pleasure and peace all together, a lot of us will at some point develop an unhealthy kind of codependent, possessive, dynamic. We'll become possessed by something that originally maybe was, bringing us happiness, but then it goes to an extreme. So Uranus and the moon can be about that which we are getting possessed by, or that which we are exercising from ourselves. Where we are somehow, it is time for a breakthrough with respect to that which we have been possessed by. Now I'm free. I'm being liberated from something I've been possessed by. So interesting. All right. Those are 5 themes to watch for given this full moon with Uranus tomorrow. And on tomorrow's podcast, I will be looking at the sun opposite Uranus and giving us a slightly different list of significations to watch for, which you will probably notice over the weekend. Although they're very much present during the full moon tomorrow as well. So don't forget to stick around after I log off here if you want to learn more about the program. There's an informational video tagged down. We start this weekend. You got a couple days left to register. Check out all the other services, the live talk I have coming up. And don't forget, our Kickstarter launches on Monday, where we will have our biggest sale of the year. All of our programs, all of our offerings, major discounts on everything when you support the channel and pitch in. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of unique offerings that will be a part of that I don't release anywhere else as well. So I'm really looking forward to trying to rally some support for the channel again this year. And I will see you. I'll see you again tomorrow for more on the sun opposite Uranus. All right, bye. Hey everyone. I'm glad that you're sticking around to hear more about the Year 1 program that's coming up. The program starts on November 16th of this fall. And I am here today to tell you all that the program includes and why I think you really like it if you're thinking about studying astrology. So a few practical details about the course as well. The class begins November 16th, as I mentioned, but it takes place on Saturdays from 12 to about 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern time. So that's 11 to 2 Central, and typically classes are about 2 hours long. Sometimes they run over with Q&A and discussion, but you can always plan for about 2 hours and you won't miss any of the actual lecture content for the day. You may have to duck out a little early if Q&A or discussion is extending. Sometimes it does, which is why we say between 2 and 3 hours, but typically it's around 2. All of the classes are recorded, so if you can't attend live, you are more than welcome to watch the recordings at your own pace and on your own time. You have lifetime access to the recordings, and everything is housed on a student website. I want to actually give you a just a little preview of what that student website looks like. So I am going to open up my own version of Thinkific, which is the platform that we use. So here's are some of my courses. These are all the Nightlight courses I teach. You can see on the page. But I'm going to tune into, let's go to Nightlight 28, which is the section that began in June of 2024. So here you're going to see that we have orientation instructions, course information, class links, and calendar. Everything that you need to know how to access the course is there, and you'll have a version of this in your own panel that you get set up with when you enroll. And then our lessons are laid out. So lesson 1, we have the video, the audio, the slides, the transcript. We have the Q&A box transcript so you can see what people were saying in the chat box during class. We have flashcards. We have a workbook. We have planet and sign glyph flashcards. We have bonus material, videos that we like from YouTube that we link you to. Say, check this video out, check that video out. They go along with some of the things we talked about in class. So every lesson has material for you to go as far as you want with, but the main thing is the video, audio, slides, transcript, etc. are all listed there so that you can download and watch it on your own time if you can't attend live. Again, the live classes do happen on Saturdays for this cohort, starting November 16th. That is our first day of class. And then going forward, it always meets on Saturdays, and we give you the class schedule to map out. And the breaks that we have, the study sessions that we have, everything's mapped out on the class calendar for you. So those are just a few practical details that, just to kind of start us off with. So I'm going to take you over to the website, which is nightlightastrology.com. And I'm going to share with you some information about the program and sort of walk you through what it includes and what you can expect. So it is an almost year-long program. We typically finish between 10 and 11 months out of the year. It can depend a little bit on some of my teaching and scheduling, because sometimes I teach at conferences and it may delay some of our modules by a week or something like that. But it's typically around 10 to 11 months that the program lasts. So we call it our first year program. At Nightlight, we have a program for absolute beginners. You may want to check that out if you are like brand spanking new. That would be 8 to 10 hours of content that's really meant to set you up for the first year course. We sort of assume that if you're coming into the first year program, you already know a little bit about astrology. For example, you have some familiarity with the signs, planets, and houses. Maybe you know what aspects are, but you want to learn more about what they are. But if you are really at the very total entry level space, then try Astrology for Beginners. And when you take that, you could do that right away and then join the first year course in November, and you'd be perfectly set up for it. But anyhow, in this program, over the course of about a year, we work through 30 lessons that I lead. And those lessons are all 2 to 3 hours each, including lecture, a little break, and a Q&A portion where we open up for people to come on mic and camera and ask questions and have an interactive discussion about the material for the day. The program is broken into modules that cover a variety of topics in ancient Hellenistic astrology. That is the earliest era of horoscopic astrology. And so if you don't know a lot about the different schools of astrology, Hellenistic astrology is going to be the kind of astrology that you see a lot of astrologers practicing nowadays. It's become more popular in the last 30 years or so. And that is due to the fact that a lot of ancient texts with some of the original techniques of horoscopic astrologers were recently translated into the English language, and it's created this renaissance in terms of the use of ancient approaches to astrology. I have a background in modern psychological, archetypal, and evolutionary astrology, and so of course I bring those things to the table, but the course is primarily focused on the excavation of ancient techniques and the spiritual philosophy that ancient astrologers also espoused. The closest thing that I can tell you to what that looks like is, ask this question: do you resonate with the philosophy that you hear me take on my YouTube channel? If so, then you're going to love this course in terms of its philosophical and spiritual approach, because the spiritual approach to astrology that I teach is really at the heart of the program. And that's a big part of my life. I approach astrology from a spiritual standpoint. It doesn't belong to one religion or one particular school of thought, but you will hear me talking about things like the soul, the belief in the transmigration of the soul. You'll hear me talk about the need to be soul-centered in our client approach to counseling in astrology. You'll hear me have an appreciation for psychological dimensions of astrology, but also ancient astrology is really very, very good at developing your predictive capacity. We talk about what kinds of predictions are appropriate, how to make appropriate predictions, how to be the right kind of astrologer for our clients without inducing any fear. So there's a lot of care that goes into the development of this craft. But ancient astrology is really amazing when it comes to honing your predictive abilities. And then what you'll find is in this program, there's also a pretty significant emphasis on the psychological dimensions and client care. Anyhow, we go into the roots of ancient Hellenistic astrology and its techniques in this program, and the 30 classes are broken into modules. We work through the history and philosophy. We work through planets, houses, signs, aspects, essential and accidental dignities, and then we get into approaches to the delineation of natal charts. And then at the end of the program, almost a third of the program is dedicated to live client readings, where you're going to see me meet with a person and apply what we've been studying for an hour-long reading. We take a break, we come back, and then we workshop. How did I do that? Why did I make these choices? How did I handle this or that came up in the reading? And it becomes easily the favorite part for most students of the entire program, because by that point, you've got so much theory that you're really ready to see it put into action. We alternate those live client practice sessions with hands-on practice, where students get to bring chart questions into class that we work on. And that's also something that most people really love. A lot of people will look at the curriculum and say, well, I already know planets, houses, and signs and aspects and dignities. But not if you haven't studied Hellenistic astrology, because the approach that ancient astrologers had to these topics is vastly different from the approach that modern astrologers take. So you will be, in a sense, relearning basic things in a brand new way. And I think a much more enriching, deep, and philosophically clear way. It's really nice to know the why behind things. This program and Hellenistic astrology in general is very good at helping you understand the why behind everything that we do. Also, it's really important to participate when you study astrology in a living lineage. So one of the reasons I don't let people jump ahead to my second or third year programs is because I want you to be entrained to a lineage, a particular way of doing things that comes from an astrologer who has a very living, busy, active practice and who has had teachers themselves. I think that's important for astrological learning. That's the model that my own learning take, and so that's what I really want students to take away from my programs. Anyhow, so all of that aside, the second year program focuses, after we build our understanding of the basic delineation techniques of birth charts, in year 2, we move into timing techniques, which is all about when the karma of a birth chart is going to be active and expressing itself throughout the course of a lifetime. That's year 2. Year 3 focuses on the development of counseling skills at a much deeper level. And then we also have a 1-year horary program, which is about the development of a very specific predictive technique that can be a really amazing tool to add to your kit. That is 4 years worth of training programs that we have. However, I want to mention that many people take our classes just for the sake, purely for the sake of their own personal growth. Taking these programs is very much like being taught how to utilize a technology that for yourself will be deeply useful for the rest of your life, and maybe for close friends or family members around you. Many people come through our programs taking that benefit away and will study through all 4 years of our programs with no intention of being professional. This is their hobby. This is a spiritual tool that will have it will pay dividends over a long period of time. However, many people without the intention to practice come into our courses and discover that they're actually good at it and may end up reading for other people part-time. And then there are students who are deeply, intensely motivated to practice for other people. And it is not that our programs really make those people successful. Our programs contribute to your development, but it really is that some people have a calling to practice professionally. And these programs are designed to give you all the tools you need to develop that confidence and to develop a really coherent set of tools and to entrain yourself to a lineage, which you can also develop your own unique style out of. So those are some of the, the kinds of people that take our programs, you might say. So the 30 classes on the year are then broken into modules. And in between modules, we have 2 course directors who are present in all of the classes, and they lead breakout tutoring sessions where you can come in and review or ask questions about the module that we've just completed, which is usually anywhere between 2 and 3 classes each. So those breakout study sessions led by our tutors are outside of the 30 classes and very useful. A lot of people like to attend those because they also offer opportunity for community and just lively conversation. We also have 12 online webinar classes led by guest teachers that we host throughout the year. Those are free, and if you can't make them live, they're all uploaded into your student folder. You also have an interactive group forum discussion staffed with tutors who typically respond to questions that you have about the material within 24 hours. So if you can't attend a tutoring session or you just have a random question on a Tuesday night, you can pop it in there and you'll get an answer. We also have a ton of bonus material, optional quizzes, flashcards, tons of supplemental material that is there to help people go as deeply as they want. We have a reading list that is expansive. And that reading list, we don't expect anyone to accomplish. It's more so a resource that we give you saying, here, if you want to know all the things I've read, if you want to know all the things that I love, if you want to know all the things I recommend, here's a master list of everything for each lesson. You could go, PhD level if you wanted to and read thousands and thousands of pages, or you might find that there's just one extra book that looks really interesting and you want to pick it up. But we pride ourselves on making sure you have a ton of resources. You have lifetime access to all the class recordings. You can email our staff or me throughout the year with questions, and my staff will also defer to me in the case that they don't know the answer to a question. So that is what the program includes. It starts November 16th. If you would like to join, at the bottom between now and October 15th, our early bird payments are available. So that saves you some money off the cost of the course. There is a 12-month installment plan that is cheaper than our normal plan, a one-time payment that's significantly cheaper than our normal one-time payment. So you get these little sales that we do until October 15th. We also have need-based tuition assistance. So if you are someone who would like to take this program, but you are on a fixed or tight budget, we have an application there. Click apply now. Just tell us what you need. We give a range. We say between this dollar amount and this dollar amount, what can you spend? And then we set you up with a plan for that tuition number per month. And that is available for anyone. We ask people to apply early because those spots are limited, but we are really accommodating. We try to make sure that nobody's priced out of a spiritual education. Like, this topic should be very accessible for people because I believe that the divine is speaking through the sky, and like anyone should have access to understanding what it's saying, right? So anyway, that is a bit about the program. I hope that this has been useful for you. If there are any questions you have, you can look over the curriculum content on the page, on the year 1 page. There's more information there. Check out the FAQ section for more questions. Email us info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see some of you in class soon. I think this is going to be a really powerful program because it's also starting right as Pluto's moving into Aquarius. And within the year, we're going to have a Uranus-Pluto trine with Uranus in Gemini. These airy signatures and the connection between Uranus and Pluto make for a very powerful year to advance our understanding of astrology. So it's a great election year for studying. And I hope to see some of you in class soon.